Welcome to Kingsdown School Creative Media, Unit R081, Lesson 6. Today we're going to be learning about reviews. You'll be faced with two types of reviews in the Creative Media. The first is inside the units. In each of the units you will be asked to carry out a review of your final product. Whereas in the exam, you're likely to be asked to carry out a review of one of the pre-production documents that has been produced, and they will ask you to evaluate that as to whether it's suitable for the purpose for which it was created.
Okay, so let's start by having a look at our objectives for today. I need you to be able to understand the purpose and the process of carrying out project and document reviews. And the success criteria will be that you are able to identify and describe the purpose, the properties, i.e. what they have in them, the suitability and the layout of project or document reviews, and obviously, of course, for you to be able to write one. So why do we need reviews? Okay, so reviewing is a key skill and it can be used in a variety of ways, but the overall thing is that, normally speaking, a review looks at specific criterion, it works out if the desired requirement has been met, and as long as the criteria is measurable in some way, now that could just be an opinion, it could be a set level, then the review process can be used. Well designed and written reviews help us to make sure that we have reached our goals and our targets, or that the criteria that we've been given has been met, or that the documents that we are using are suitable for the task they're designed for. So project reviews are a good way of checking that we've actually done what we are asked to do. So when we investigate the client briefs, which you do in all of the units, we recommend obviously that you make a list of those requirements. Obviously you rewrite those as your interpretation of the brief, but we can use that same list effectively to do the first part of the review. In a way, a double check that the client brief will be met, as well as ensuring that all the areas that the review will concentrate on are also fully covered. So a document review will look at and consider the suitability of the document to carry out the function for which it has been designed for. Often things change, and regular reviews will help us to ensure that these changes are reflected in the documents that we choose. So there you'll see an excerpt from the learning outcomes from the main specification for the Creative Media units. And it says that the learners must be taught how to review a pre-production document, okay, and identify areas for improvement. And in addition to that, you'll normally find in the exam that it asks for developments as well. So the reviews of all the media units are worth at least 10% of the total mark and account for 30% of the total marks in the R091 unit. So you can't really ignore these, and across the three units it averages out at 20%. So 1/5 of your marks will be from these reviews, and yet historically it is the worst written of all the tasks, even where it has been attempted, and in some cases of course it has not. Therefore it's very important that we be able to understand what the exam board is actually asking for and why they place so much importance on them. Then we need to be able to write a review in such a way that we get the most marks for the work produced. Once again, here you have a learning outcome, this time from the R082 unit, and it says that learners must be taught how to review a digital graphic against a specified brief, okay, and identify areas in a digital graphic for improvement and further development. Okay, and obviously that includes actually taking parts of that and doing something with it, and then perhaps using it for a slightly different purpose even. So let's get a feel for these exam questions first of all in R081. This is part of the scenario that runs through the exam paper. Now the questions that you are asked about will be about the pre-production documents, the legislation and the health and safety involved in creating digital media. However, you do need to refer back to this scenario as your context for your answers. But we must be careful when reviewing documents that you review the suitability for the purpose of the document, not what is the end product. So you're not reviewing whether it's going to produce, in this case, a good advertising campaign. You're going to be asked about a mood board and whether that mood board is actually suitable for the job, which is of course to generate ideas and specify the look and the feel and the flow. So let's have a quick look. So an R081 exam question often take the form of discussions. Okay, discussion of the suitability of a particular document, which is nearly always in draft form or incomplete, and then you are required to evaluate the document itself rather than what the actual document has been prepared for. Essentially, what they are asking, as you can see, is this the correct document and does it do what it's supposed to do? Now, as these are discussion questions, they've normally got 12 marks allocated to them, and you should really therefore include 4 good points, 4 bad points, 4 areas of improvement, normally based on obviously what your bad points were, and a conclusion. And invariably, as you see at the bottom of that, the quality of your written work is also marked in these questions. So you need to write in full sentences with the correct punctuation, not in bullet points, although you could possibly take out bullet points and put in a sentence for each of your points. That would work, but you must group them in paragraphs. So you'd have 4 sentences on your first 4 points, 4 sentences on your bad points, 4 sentences for your improvement, etc., and then a conclusion at the end. Okay, so in a minute, we'd like you to take 15 minutes in your books and do exactly what it asks on the previous page. Discuss the suitability of that mood board in Figure 2 for the television advert. You should include areas for improvement, as we said, and yes, we still will be looking at the quality of your written assessment here. So the mark scheme, here is the level 3, 9 to 12 marks. Now, as you can see there in the guidance, it says the following areas for the mood board should be considered in the answer. So all of those things there that you see should actually be part of your answer. Okay, you can stop the video here if you like, or of course you can carry on and then we can let you come back to this once you've finished watching the video. So I'm going to move on, and now I'm looking at an example project review. Now, this learner's work consistently refers back to both what was included in the brief and, as you can see from the subheadings, also checks if it is fit for the purpose it was designed for and any improvements that they could make, and also continuing on from that, how they could actually develop this particular product. And this is exactly what you're going to have to produce at the end of your R082. Generally speaking, for this kind of review, we'd think somewhere in the region for this level, this one I think is believed to be about 10% of the marks, I would think somewhere in the region of about 1,000 words should cover it, but these subheadings are quite important here. So, is it fit for purpose? Does it do what it's actually supposed to do? That's your product. Does it actually meet the design brief? All of those things that were asked for by the people who commissioned you to do this particular job, have you included all of those things that were supposed to be done? Then have a look at it a little bit more critically. Could you have done better? Were there things that you, in hindsight, if you'd had more time or there were better facilities, etc., could you have done any better? And what would be the impact of those? It's not just about saying, oh, I would have done such and such. Why would you have done that? What impact would that have on your final product? And then at the end there, how can that product be developed? What else could you do with this design that you've come up with? How else could you use it? How else could it help to further the aims which you were given in the first place? let's move on. So the steps involved in creating your project reviews. So initially the steps are identify the criteria. Now that, normally speaking, is, as I said earlier, where you've gone to the client brief and you've identified all the things that they have said are needed to be done. You have to do that in order to create your interpretation of the client brief anyway, so it would be a very good idea to keep that list, okay, and then you can actually have that as your main criteria. Now, setting targets or measures for each of those criteria. To what extent are they met? Are they going to be able to be fully met, or you're going to mostly meet them, or actually we're only just going to touch the surface? It's important that we understand that, because again, we can then say how we might improve. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's not always good to produce something that's absolutely perfect, because if you do, then it's very difficult to identify areas where you might be able to improve. Evaluating if whatever is being reviewed meets the target, requirement or level. So we then look at those levels that we've created and we tell the exam board whether in fact we have actually met them. Record that. Okay, record the aim that you had in the first place, the result that you came up with and the conclusion drawn from that process. And then finally identify the improvements, record of those, and record obviously how you think you are going to develop that particular product. So another activity for you now. This is a brief from a previous R089 unit. It's no longer being used, so we can quite happily use this now. And as you can see, it gives the brief of what is going to need to go into a trailer, and it gives the basic outline of the games, a little bit about who's written it, who's producing it, what the main characters are, etc, etc. And what we'd like you to do is create that checklist that we've been talking about. Basically, go through this client brief, come up with all the things that you think should be there, what they actually mean. So when they say something, you know, what is it they're actually talking about, what's that going to look like in terms of a trailer, and get those all written down. Now again, you can stop the video here if you like and do that straight away, or of course you can watch the video on to the end and then come back and do that as an exercise. Your final exercise is to actually use the checklist that you created in that previous activity to design a review form. Now we don't have review forms as such, but there's no reason why you can't do this, just to really create in your own mind what it is that you're trying to do. Now in real life we do use these, and it's likely to be a Word document divided into sections, such as you can see, with a description of what should be put in each section. But for today you can just sketch that out in your book, but it's a good way of getting to understand what it is that you should be writing about when you're actually doing a review. So just design a form like that, annotate it so that it includes all of the things that you think are going to be required within your review structure. Okay, so we're coming to the end now. Quick review here. In the previous lesson I did by video, I actually gave you the answers to these review questions. On this occasion I would like you to give me the answers to these questions. So I want you to email in to me, what is the purpose of the project review? How do the reviews help us in the pre-production planning stage? What is the purpose of reviewing the suitability of a document? List 5 items that you would expect to find in a review, and that can be of either, because to be quite honest, you just tell me which one you're doing, and then describe how you would create a project review. Right, so last thing here is just to show you that there will be a homework obviously following on from this lesson. It will be in the guise, as you can see there, the figure 10 there or the figure 1 from question 10, you can get from the Ken portal. The link to that is on the homework that you will be given. Again, it's a discussion question, 12 marks, so I'd expect then the layout to be, as we've practiced already, that you'll have 4 good points, 4 bad points, 4 items for improvement, and some form of conclusion in the affirmative or the negative, depending on what they've asked you to do. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.